Members of the deaf community say, deaf people can do anything but hear. While this is the case for the average person who is deaf, there is a large community of deaf individuals who, because of additional disabling conditions, environmental and academic deficits, require specialized programs to achieve their goals. Sometimes referred to as low functioning, at risk, or underserved, they can overcome many obstacles by receiving services and supports designed to meet their needs and help them reach their goals. Ultimately, they can lead independent lives as contributing citizens. Hello, my name is Rhonda Swaney. I would like to introduce you to some remarkable people who live and work in communities across the country. Despite being faced with multiple challenges, disabilities, socioeconomic constraints, lack of resources, they've experienced success. One of these individuals is my son, Kelly, whom you will meet later. He and the others are amazing examples of individuals who've overcome the barriers to live, work, and play in their communities. But they've achieved their quality of life by chance. There is no system in place to sustain it. Attitudes have greatly changed over time, and people who are deaf enjoy more equal access and more employment opportunities. However, there is a group of people who are deaf who continue to face significant barriers to employment. Programs like the Southwest Center for Higher Independence, or SCHI, housed by the Methodist Mission Home in San Antonio, Texas, are helping to make a difference. SCHI has a work training center where individuals learn job skills and earn money while working on real-world contracts for businesses. SCHI's residential program provides the independent living skills training component needed. With deaf and sign-fluent professionals on staff, SCHI provides an environment where people can learn important social skills as well. They also take classes to prepare them for job interviews, employment settings, and working within a hearing culture. Rudy has improved significantly since coming to SCHI.
Without this service, he might be on drugs and wouldn't survive a long time. He'd probably be living on the street. There may be other group homes, but they don't have the deaf services that he needs. We have deaf services here. I'm deaf myself. I'm aware of his needs and the kinds of services he needs. I'm here to help him.
When you can get all the services there and you see a person that formerly had no life and they have a life, they have independence, they work and they live in the community, they have friends, opportunities for socialization. I do a lot of person-centered planning in my job. This is one of the tools that we use to address the needs of this population. And if you're not familiar with that process, it's focused really on the abilities of the individual and what they need and what the barriers are based on their abilities, what the barriers are for them to achieve. And then the work of the team is to address those barriers and break them down so that the individual can become what they're capable of being.
There is a program just outside Denver, Colorado, housed at Goodwill Industries, that is the only one of its kind in the state. Here, a group of several deaf individuals are learning job skills in an environment where everyone uses their language. Hope is a participant in this program.
Hope grew up in a less than ideal home environment. She had several foster care placements, and she didn't have communication access in any of them. She was literally abandoned.
Well, when she came to me, she was 14 and a half and in foster care. And then when she turned 21, she had to go into a different part of the support system. And so that's when I stopped being her caseworker, foster mother, guardian, and became a host home provider.
Hope really wants to work, but she needs supervision because of her disabilities. She has developmental disabilities, cognitive disabilities, mental health disabilities, nervous disorders. She has Tourette's, and she's obsessive. She can do well on her own, but in environments with no communication access, no support, and no sensitivity or understanding of her disability, the problems associated with her disabilities are exacerbated, regardless of medication. It's the support and supervision that she needs.
Before coming to Goodwill, Kathy Noble was Hope's vocational rehabilitation counselor and was helping her look for work.
And Kathy and Hope went out and were all set to go to work in a retail store. They'd been practicing, and Hope was learning how to make it out in the hearing community when the organization that owned the store decided that they couldn't have a disabled person in their store, that the liability issues were too big. The corporate office in New York decided that, not the people in the actual store in Adams County.
She was heartbroken. She really wanted to work. The VR heard about Goodwill. It wasn't exactly what she wanted, but she thought it would be fine. It's important to work in the community, so I came here with her as her job coach. It's been a wonderful experience here.
And before you knew it, whiz, boom, bang, there is now a whole deaf services program. I think 20 people. Kathy has an assistant. Hope never wants to leave there.
We can get people jobs, but that's only the beginning. That's only the beginning of what they need. They need someone that can work with them to teach them those related skills that a person needs to live in the community, to make decisions, to make judgment calls, to handle their own money oftentimes. Just these things that we all take for granted.
For the first time in her life, Hope is beginning to experience success. The opportunity to socialize with deaf peers and directly communicate with her supervisors and job coaches has helped her grow. Kathy continues to work with Hope outside of Goodwill as well.
Now, we go out a lot together. We have girlfriend days. I will teach her what I like to do. She can tell me whether she likes it or not. Some things she really likes, like Starbucks. She's crazy over Starbucks. She really enjoys going to the movies. We might not stay for the whole thing. We'll select things based on what she can understand, with captions. This activity gives her a wonderful sense of pride. She can go out just like everyone else. I would like to see Goodwill's deaf services expand. We could provide job placement services, set up a group home, and work more collaboratively with the resources out there, so that there would be an integration with the services they get here. We can work as a team toward their success.
One difficulty in serving this population is that we don't have the people that are trained, that have, first of all, the natural skills, the communication skills, the love, the heart, the soul for serving this population. And then if we do have someone, we don't have the training available for them to work, to learn how to meet their needs. And what training there was once upon a time is no more.
A job coach like Kathy can make a huge difference in the lives of deaf people who have additional challenges. In Missoula, Montana, Jenny Bennett has found employment with the help of a job coach. Jenny is deaf and also has significant difficulties with vision and balance.
I worked like crazy to get them to believe me that she was extremely intelligent. And I said, she can do it. You watch, she can do it.
Well, at the time that Jenny was hired, I mean, it had never occurred to us to go out and search for somebody like Jenny or somebody with her disabilities. But when we were approached by her job coach and heard what she could do, it just seemed, given this is what we wanted to do.
I was originally approached by Jenny's job coach, Michelle, wanting to know if we had any type of work that Jenny could do. And initially I thought, I can't think of anything that we could have her do. And I thought, well, we do have some jobs that nobody seems to get to. Maybe we could work that out.
She's become part of this team, and people love her.
I think this job means so much to her and to be part of our community. And we're so happy to have her here. And I think she's taught us all to look beyond what we think about disabilities.
If Jenny had just walked in here off the street and applied for a job with us, I'm sure at the time we would not have considered it. I mean, I don't think it would even have been in our thoughts of the realms of possibilities. So it really took her job coach and making us aware of her, what she could do, to consider it. And then once we knew that, we wanted to do it.
6 months after this interview, we returned to Missoula to discover that Jenny had been promoted. People with disabilities have much to contribute to the workforce, to the community, and to society. We've seen how they rely on the support of trained counselors and job coaches to realize their true potential. My son Kelly is deaf and has additional disabilities. His father Charles and I have had to negotiate and renegotiate services for Kelly at every turn from the time he was born. In the process of making this program, Charles and I sat down for an interview to share Kelly's story. Kelly he's unique. There's no one like him in the world. And that isn't just because he beat the odds. Kelly was born 3.5 months early. We didn't expect him. And the doctors who cared for him told us he probably wouldn't last the night, and they didn't do anything. They just let him spend the night. At the time Kelly was born, they didn't have the technology they do today, so they just didn't expect him to live. They didn't have anything to compare him with because other children born that early hadn't survived, and they were stumbling around in the dark as much as we were. We took Kelly to a pediatrician in Missoula, but all he said was that Kelly had cerebral palsy. His deafness wasn't confirmed. We knew he couldn't hear until he was 5. So he missed all those years when we were struggling to get a correct diagnosis and struggling to get him the kind of assistance he needed. So yes, he was delayed physically, but I think he was delayed cognitively because of this lack of diagnosis. We live on the Flathead Indian Reservation. It's north of Missoula, and mostly small towns. There was one town that we could live in that would transport Kelly to the Missoula District 1, and they employed teachers of the deaf, so we moved to that town. We bought a house there. After Kelly was in the 8th grade, we made the decision to put him in a residential school, the Montana School for Deaf and Blind, and finally graduated under an IEP program in 1996. Kelly had several obstacles to overcome in his education. The system was woefully unprepared to deal with his needs. With proper education at the earliest age possible, he might have been more prepared for a career. Even though we were aware of Kelly's limitations, we always celebrated his uniqueness in our family. He would continually surprise us with the extent of his intellectual ability.
We went deer hunting, though, at one time there, and we went down a side road in an old logging area, and we'd been traveling down this off-the-way side road for about 45 minutes an hour, and I got a little worried that we wouldn't be able to make it back to the main road unless I turned around, and Kelly says, no, 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 no. He'd been up there 3 or 4 years earlier with his stepfather, Dan, and said, no, keep going, we'll come out. And you wouldn't have thought, because it was not a well-traveled side road, and I didn't know whether or not to believe Kelly, that he could remember something that happened 4 or 5 years ago, where we're in the mountains and everything looked the same, and you had no points of reference. So I believed in Kelly, and we drove about another 15 minutes and came back to the main road, which was very fortunate for us. Or I would have had to turn around and drive all the way back an hour and 15 minutes. So Kelly did remember.
Kelly wanted to be independent right after he graduated from high school. It's one of the goals he had when he graduated from high school, to live in his own apartment, to move to Missoula and work. Both of us are very involved in Kelly's life. He has personal care attendants come in 5 mornings a week. They prepare him breakfast and lunch. He packs the lunch to work. Kelly is responsible for his own meals at night, and his dad and I try to be here most of the nights during the week where he'll have to get up the next morning and go to work.
Me, the two, lucky, be ba, lucky, but all I, that my nap,
He's got a lot of energy. He's always willing to try things, which is great for him because it helps him to learn better. He's willing to listen to staff, and that's what our job is here, to prepare him for the outside world, because ultimately that's what he would like. He would like a job in the community.
me, about to lose,
Kelly's life has changed since his interview. He now has a new job in the community.
The changes I've seen him from Opportunity Resources to here have just been wonderful, absolutely wonderful. He ordered 500 business cards, and I think he's pretty much given them all away. I mean, he's so proud to work here.
Kelly's counselors came in and really went through the effort of selling us on the idea that Kelly could contribute to the university, but it didn't take the effort that they put forward. We were open to the idea. Our thought was, let's bring Kelly in, fold him into the fabric of our department, get him accustomed to the work, get him into the routine of being on campus, and then we'll take him around campus. And so we kind of took over the selling, if you will. We're certainly not being his counselor, but we're telling other departments on campus the services that are available through Kelly. One of our biggest successes is having him work on a key mailing for the president's office. And it was something that would have been outsourced at great expense. We were able to do it in-house. And Kelly is so far ahead on the project that the president's office can't believe it. Kelly reminds us every day that there's still work to be done, and is the president's office meeting their deadlines. So it's been a great experience.
He's working on campus now, and he's involved with our program. Kelly's kind of got a voluntary role as far as, you know, he provides a lot of, I guess, focus and inspiration. You know, he'll rebound for guys some days, you know, when they're going and getting some extra shots up. You know, he just pats them on the back. It's just knowing that he's there when our guys leave that locker room to take the court, and looking at his face and how much he's into it, I think helps them kind of get dialed in a little bit when it's time for competition. He'll actually get on our chalkboard and write out what he's trying to say. He's even broken into a few of our meetings here recently and drawn up some plays. So we appreciate his enthusiasm. I think at first we were a little bit ignorant. We didn't give him much credit for what he understood. And so we were throwing all sorts of darts at the board trying to guess where he was going, but it was always right in front of our nose. He was very in tune with our conversation. I'm really proud of Kelly's family. Just the support they've given, the direction. They knew that Kelly was going to be a very great force as far as contributing to society and not giving up on him. And it's really neat to see. They've got to be commended on that. And it just makes one focus a little bit on maybe the people that don't have that sort of structure, whether it's from a minority background or not. There needs to be something in place because there are people out there that may face some obstacles, but given a chance, I think can really contribute to society. And look what Kelly's doing here on a major university campus. It would just be nice to see some programs put in place and maybe some money put forward so that those people aren't left out in the cold.
We realize that we are the exception. It is rare for parents to be in the position to provide the level of support that we do. But we're forced to stay closely involved with Kelly's day-to-day life because of the lack of programs and services available to him.
The cracks are getting wider and more people are falling through the cracks in spite of our best efforts. It's true.
But it's been very difficult, you know. Certainly funding is an issue. Organized programs are an issue. Kelly can have the best case manager in the world, and if there aren't places to refer him to or programs to assist him, Kelly sits at home.
Mm-hmm. Those we call low-functioning deaf have a lot of issues. They have mental health issues or brain disorders or nervous disorders and developmental issues, none of which is their fault.
As for the term low functioning and deaf, none of us like that term. It's something that we're more or less stuck with because it came from the feds, funding was attached, but we don't like that term because it puts the blame on the individual. And it's not the individual's fault that they may be low functioning or at risk or whatever terminology you use. It can often be the result of deprivation from childhood on. They've never received appropriate communication training. They've never received appropriate educational training. They've never received they've never had the opportunities to socialize, to be with other deaf people, to get that incidental learning that we all take for granted that that person, because of their lack of communication, is not privy to. So for that reason, they may be low functioning, but it's not their fault.
It might be medically or birth-related, environmental or genetic, or whatever. Naturally, when you're underdeveloped, you have a harder time comprehending things or understanding what you really need to do and what the steps are. There might be things you can do, but you really don't understand what you're doing. You get the rules. You know that when you cross the street, you're supposed to look both ways. And they might actually look both ways and cross the street, but they don't know what they're looking for. They don't know that they are looking for cars. They know the rule, but they don't know the concept behind it. Some of them don't know how to make decisions that can impact their lives legally, or medically, or life-wise, financially. They require more time to understand and learn and practice and have hands-on experience with things. After repeated exposure, they're fine. They can do it.
Every person has the right to reach their potential, advocate for themselves, and to be an equal participant in their community. People who are deaf and have additional challenges face barriers to that right. Funding is essential to create programs that provide the kind of unique supports they need.
We tried to apply for a grant for specific deaf services, but we were told it had to be all-inclusive and include hearing people with disabilities. They wanted us to serve all disabilities from the government's perspective. You know, that's a fine idea, but those who are hearing with disabilities already have lots of choices compared to those who are deaf. If that restriction was lifted, we could catch up.